Everyone has those games that are special to them for one reason or another. It may be something you grew up playing, one that inspired you to make your own games or stories of your own, or even just one that really gets your nostalgia going. The Baten Kaitos series happens to be all three of these for me, and it's a world with a story I can never get enough of no matter how many times I play it. To put that into perspective, think of how a good number of Zelda fans look at Ocarina of Time. That's what Baten Kaitos is for me, sans maybe the same amount of vulnerability, and it crosses my brain spirit every so often. On nights when I have nothing better to do, I go down rabbit holes. Back in October of 2022, the particular rabbit hole I had gone down led me to be curious about speedrunning Baten Kaitos itself. I love speedrunning, and Eternal Wings, the first of the series' 2 games, always felt like a game I was potentially good enough at to be able to do pretty well, at least with categories that don't cover 100%. You may think that's a wild wish for a game I've been playing for years, but this game system is wild, and I realized while looking at the rule set for Speedrun.com that while you need to have really good knowledge of the game to build yourself up to getting decent runs in the 80% categories, you have to be absolute gods in order to complete 100%. The rules for the 100% category are actually pretty simple, and half of the rule set really just covers guidelines on what you will need to submit if your time goes over a certain amount. Which is wild, considering what that amount is. I feel like I should give a brief explanation on Baten Kaitos' main gimmick to be able to further reveal why this is fucking crazy. The game is card-based, which is an automatic turn-off for some, and you have this huge catalog that keeps track of what cards, called Magnus, you have and have not gotten. Some never appear other than in specific circumstances, requiring great knowledge on which Magnus falls under this, such as 1 or 2 of the yells and auras, and some you have to age, like turning a Peach Magnus into a Wonder Momo, which takes a total of 80 hours from Peach to Peach Boy to Wonder Momo. Fun fact, my mom discovered this on accident because she likes to leave the GameCube on and fall asleep playing games. Some of these times are hard to get unless you purposely leave the game on to accumulate the time, which leads me into my next point. The reason an Eternal Wings 100% is such a crazy task is because it literally takes 336 hours from start to finish to age the shampoo Magnus into the splendid hair. Not to mention, if you do manage to do that, you better hope it's not in your party's decks, because then you literally will not be able to unlock the last 6 tracks needed to complete the music list in order to finish the run with the 100% rule set Speedrunning.com has. Which, now that I'm thinking of it, is like such a specific flag for the game to have? What? This whole card by itself makes 100% such a daunting task. It gets even wilder when you consider that currently the 100% world record is just 5 minutes shy of 338 hours, performed by -M, who also holds the record in 2 of the other 3 categories. Your first opportunity to get the Shampoo Magnus in-game is on the first island, usually within the first hour and a half, so as long as you don't sell it and manage to keep your GameCube on all day, every day for 2 whole weeks, your request may not be all that fruitless. Now you may be asking yourself, Alex, what was that all about if the video title is talking about the Baten Kaitos series as a whole? Well, during this particular rabbit hole escapade, I became rather horrified at the times, until, remembering about the splendid hair, and I decided I really wanted to know what Baten Kaitos' origin speedrunning looked like. I was not at all prepared to find that there were only 2 whole speedruns in the 80% category, and absolutely none in the 100% category. Oh my god. It's not even that the rule set is asking for a lot, as it's all pretty reasonable. Well, if it seems that easy, then why don't you try 100%ing it as a speedrun? Other than the fact my computer is barely held together with the South's Lord and Savior duct tape as it is, and my capture card is incompatible with said highly flammable PC's graphics card, it is a long story I will explain later. My main problem with 100%ing Origins in any capacity lies in much the same reason as Eternal Wings. One of the screens on your selection menu is called The Gathering. It's a collection of all the Magnus you've owned and/or, depending on the game, viewed over the course of your playthrough, and it's handy to have when looking at lists of Magnus online to know what you're missing to complete it. Origins Gathering is a lot smaller than Eternal Wings, around 655 Magnus as opposed to 1022, so while it's less daunting in theory, let me tell you why it might actually be worse. In Eternal Wings, several Magnus are only obtainable in some very specific ways, such as aging or one-time only tasks. 3 of these, Beast's Chains, Beast's Collar, and Beast's Shackles, are locked behind what is likely one of the worst side quests in the game, if only because of its sheer length. I'd never even heard of these Magnus until I was looking up stuff for this video, and I'm kind of mad because they sound awesome. See, the game was produced, if I'm using the right word, by Bandai Namco, and as a result, there's a certain character who appears as a Magnus with 2 variations it will change into when specific requirements are met. In Eternal Wings, the way to obtain it is simple. Match a cherry, strawberry, orange, apple, and melon Magnus together in that exact order for a Magnus combo while in battle, choose the Pac-Man card from the rewards screen, then wait 7 hours for it to turn into Pac-Land. View the Magnus, then wait the same amount of time for it to turn into Pac-Mania. Brief tangent, but when I first saw the Pac-Mania card, I had a brief lapse in brain cell functionality and confused it with Pac-Attack, which to this day is the only game I played from Pac-Man Collection, a GBA game I got to go with my first Game Boy Advance when I was a kid. I was showing them to a much more game-savvy friend of mine when I made the confusion, and either I confused him with the mix-up or he was straight up ignoring my rambling about the Pac-Mania Magnus, and why it's an awful side quest in Origins. Honestly, either way is valid. Okay, tangent done. In Origins, to even start the quest, you have to go on an adventure to free an old man locked in a cell in the sewers. I'm not kidding. Considering Origins is a prequel, this is either a canon event that happens, or he manages to get free sometime after the events of the game, because upon leaving he will head to his home in Percod and Sadal soon. Gamers who have only played Eternal Wings, I present to you everyone's favorite womanizer, Kuzmin. Alive and kicking 20 years in the past. For the uninitiated, Kuzmin is also responsible for one of 2 side quests that spans practically the entirety of Eternal Wings' story. I never freed him in any of my own playthroughs of Origins, and I couldn't find anything about why exactly Kuzmin got locked up in Mintaka. Other than that, to get him to go home to start the Pac-Man side quest, you have to talk to his wife Tammy and Percod. But knowing the side quest he put you through in Eternal Wings, Malpartia only knows if it was for a good reason or not. Anyhow, Kuzmin here will ask you to take care of a little friend he met in his cell, Pac-Man. His intentions are good, and you wind up with a really good Magnus at the end of the side quest. But the problem with this side quest is that he is lodged in your adventure Magnus, which is where in both games you capture the Magnus essence of items, and on like 1 or 2 occasions people too, in order to carry them around easily. To evolve from Pac-Man into Pac-Mania, Pac will need to consume a grand total of 147 adventure Magnus, 75 to become Pac-Land, and 72 to become Pac-Mania. Some of which take a good portion of the game to age, while 3 of them are actually missable after a certain point. Not to mention items you can only get by using Magnus mix recipes. One of the guides I read while doing research into this video mentioned that the most they could get for him in a single playthrough was 145 by getting him at the earliest possible point, which means New Game Plus, which will carry over at the very least your data for the Gathering, will have to be a necessity. I ain't about that life. I will go through the second Origins Giacomo fight 700 times before I try to figure out how to New Game Plus this freaking game. But a guide I saw for the questline mentioned putting Pac-Man before a bunch of inedible adventure Magnus, so he doesn't eat everything you're carrying. So I may have to try this quest the next time I play Origins, since Pac-Mania makes every attack a critical hit, and Lord knows I need me some of that good magic. I mentioned Magnus mix recipes a minute ago, and that's another thing that kind of puts me off 100%ing Origins. It's not like it's hard. You just stick certain amounts of specific items in your mixture and go battle a few enemies, and ta-da! Got item! The problem is not everything has a recipe you could obtain to help know what items to mix, which normally wouldn't be a problem since you can approach it kind of like cooking in the 2 most recent Zelda games, and that makes it kind of fun. However, you can only get certain Magnus from this method only, and you may not have the ability or know-how to mix the right items in the right way at the right time. None of this also even comes close to the Heart Flask side quest, which can potentially be considered worse than Pac-Man, who just fucking eats everything, because it can lead to some confusion and despair if you don't know that certain phases show in the Gathering out of order. The purpose of the Heart Flask side quest kind of contains spoilers for major plot points in Eternal Wings, so I won't be deeply discussing its use here, but it's interesting to think about in the context of Origins being a prequel. What I will say is that Georg, grandfather of the first game's protagonist Callus, gives Sagi and friends the quest in order to collect people's hearts to further his experiments. But so long as you view the Magnus periodically to make sure you're catching all 5 stages, you don't even have to go back to him unless you just want more information from him about it, since the quest garners no rewards other than filling slots for the Gathering. Heart Flask Stage 2 shows up as 3rd in the order of 5, yet another thing I learned while making this video, and Heart Flask Stage 5 shows up as 2nd in the order. I don't know why this is, but now I at least know I didn't miss a stage the first time I tried to complete this side quest. Alex, all you've done is complain about normal functions in a game. It's quite common these days to have lengthy, difficult side quests and moments to confuse the player, and there's always the 80% categories if you ever decide to speedrun the games. That is a fair point, person who is definitely real and definitely watching me put on my clown makeup in real time as we speak. The whole point of this video is that these aren't de facto things that make speedrunning the games a problem, but that they're just the reasons why I personally can understand why no one really wants to try to do it. Also, if we're being honest though, Baten Kaitos is a cult classic game series with an admittedly scary looking combat system, whose final installment came out so late in the GameCube's lifespan that not only did it not release in PAL regions, but to the best of my knowledge, no English strategy guide exists for it in any capacity other than fan-made ones you can find online. Not only that, but you should never try to do a 100% speedrun unless you've A, 100% the game before, B, enjoy suffering, and or C, have a route planned out so well even planner notebooks are jealous. Interesting final note though, I started this script back in October of 2022 as I've mentioned before, way before any leaks or rumors came into my line of sight. And in February 2023, we got a remaster announcement, baby! Oh god, it looks so fucking good! I lost my damn marbles that day, or at least what remained of them. Included in Baten Kaitos 1 and 2 HD Remaster are various quality of life improvements that I think will likely come in handy in the speedrunning scene, so who knows? Maybe sometime after September 14th and 15th we'll actually see the current record for Eternal Wings beaten, or even the first 100% speedrun of Baten Kaitos Origins. Also, just a really funny thing that I didn't know where else to put is, I bought a Baten Kaitos Origins strategy guide on eBay for this video, and ultimately I didn't use it, in part because I wouldn't be able to tell what was left over as like regional differences due to the fact that I can't read Japanese, let alone pronounce most of the words in the language that gives us the English translated title of Beginning of the Wings and Heir of the Gods. My strategy guide for Eternal Wings is in English, but as far as I'm aware, they've never made any for Origins officially in English. That's all from me, but thank you so much for choosing to watch this video and sticking with me until the end. I've got more content like this planned, so if that interests you, then please subscribe or even drop a like. It's very much appreciated. Now, go and be what you've always dreamed to be. Oh my god, blinking to death, please help, blinking to death.